Joe, you've had a career now that spanned several decades, which means you've worked through really good financial economic times and you've worked through recessions and very challenging times. So, what advice would you give someone on how to weather a recession or an economic downturn, and how to deal with that uncertainty and move forward with confidence and still succeed?
That's a really good question because a recession actually intensifies problems you already have, right? So, I look at it from the standpoint of the rivers flowing nicely, all the rocks and boulders are covered up, and it looks really peaceful. Then all of a sudden, the water level starts to come down and the boulders start to show themselves. In the recessionary period, those boulders come forward and you have to address them because those are the things that your business processes and your discipline have left you, and they were covered up by business growth or expansion or revenue or whatever it was. So I always found that in a recessionary period, you have to go down to your roots. What's your process? What's your process discipline? And how efficiently am I getting things done? Because in those scenarios, you're going to find that there's things you can improve in your business. And so I always looked at those areas as opportunities to reset ourselves. Now, obviously, the revenues drop and profits become maybe a little bit less important to cash flow. So you start to work those metrics a little bit more closely. From a business perspective, the opportunities are to streamline your processes and make them more efficient. Because when the business does come back, and it always comes back, you're going to be that much stronger. Your foundation will be that much better.
Yeah, and I remind people that the trucking industry is the canary in the coal mine for the economy. So oftentimes the trucking industry takes a dive before the general economy drops, but we also recover first and come out of it faster, usually than other sectors. And so, from my perspective, I think that recessions are actually a wonderful opportunity for exponentially growing on the other side of the downturn. And so there's a lot of times when things are bad, everybody thinks it's never going to end. And when things are good, everybody thinks it's never going to end, right? So you get this effect where all of a sudden the recession kicks in. It happens, the downturn's happening, and everybody starts going in one direction. And I have said for many years now, that is the time you need to stop and you need to look in the other direction. Where's the opportunity? Because oftentimes you've got this window of time for just a few months where you could capitalize, and coming out of that recession, out of that cycle, when it comes on the upswing, if you position yourself correctly, you can capitalize on that and you can win big. David, does that resonate with you at all?
It does. Like I was referring earlier, when business was down, that's when I decided to hire some more salespeople and put an inventory. What I've kind of learned through the history of being in the business, when there's a downturn, like now, people may not be buying new trucks, and older trucks are on the road for longer. And then when things start, when they're bad, all of a sudden there'll be parking trucks, and then they might not be repairing them, and then they might cannibalize the truck and take parts off. So, it goes through these cycles all the time. And then when things start getting good, they have all these trucks that need to be repaired. And then the parts business starts really picking up. And then people want to order parts. They don't care how much they're going to pay. They just need to get that truck back on the road. So I think it's a function of weathering the storm. I think it's never always going to be good and it's never always going to be bad. So I think, like Joe said, when the water comes down and you see those rocks, we kind of always knew they were there, but we didn't pay attention to them because sales are growing. And so I think the lesson to be learned is always keep a little bit of money on the side and have a war chest so you're not all against the wall if things go bad, because they will, and things will get better. So, I'm seeing that today. I think today luckily we're not going into a recession, but things are tough, but they'll turn around.